the count. Okay. I'm the only one that does any work around here. Just give me a second. Hi, I'm Taylor Sperl, and this is Cosplay and Cocktails. And as you may have guessed, this episode is devoted to a fairly recent video game, one that I very much enjoy, that is Hades. Hades is a game by Supergiant Games. It came out in September of 2020, and you play as Zagreus, who is the son of Hades, master of hell, and you are trying to escape hell to make your way to Mount Olympus, learn about your past along the way. It is a dungeon crawler, it is a roguelike game, so like permadeath is an element. Each time you die, you learn more about the mechanics, you get stronger, yada yada. It's a really fun game. All of my friends were telling me that I should play it and that I'd like it, and the way it was described to me, while accurate, sounded like something that I actually wouldn't like. Here's the thing, I am not, I play a lot of video games, but I'm not good at them. I'm bad at video games. I die a lot, and I get frustrated when I die a lot, and then I stop playing. So the premise of a game being you die a lot, I'm like, well, off the bat, I'm not interested in it. Well, and then the other selling point was, oh, but there are queer romances. And it's like, that's cool and all, but here's the thing, I don't really enjoy romance elements in games either, or like dating sims. It's cool if you do, no judgment. But for me, personally, I am deeply awkward and uncomfortable in real life romantic situations, so having them in a video game just reminds me how inept I am in the real world. Just not enjoyable for me. But I gave the game a chance anyway. I played it, I loved it. The whole, like, growing as you die many times element was really engaging. Nothing felt monotonous or frustrating or too repetitive. And even, I will say, even the relationship building or romancing aspect of the game, I actually really enjoyed, because I've only romanced one character thus far in my game. That was Thanatos, the embodiment of death, the character that I'm cosplaying today. What's up? You know, the character is sort of awkward and stilted with his emotions through the whole game, and then when you finally do have the romance dialogue that you trigger, it is awkward and weird. It's like two total inept nerds trying to express, I have a feeling. Would you like a feeling? Hey, I felt seen by that. So you got me. You got me, Hades game. Big fan. Would recommend if you haven't played it. You know, through a lot of early quarantine, I played a lot of Animal Crossing. I think that's where we all were, like, oh, I want to disappear into a happy world of, like, little animal friends and maybe get really into, like, building my house. But I feel like Hades was far more the game for later quarantine, right? Like, I just need to get out of this hell. I am willing to do what's needed, and I will do it as many times as I need to do, but please, please, let me escape this hell. Who needs a drink? I do. So another element that I actually very much related to is that in order to build your relationships with other characters in the game, you give them nectar and ambrosia. Here's a delicious thing, please love me. That is the only way I know how to interact with other humans. Nectar, ambrosia, not creations of the game lore. Obviously, these are terms for, you know, in Greek and Roman mythology. This was the food of the gods, the drink of the gods. Nectar is almost always a drink of the gods. Ambrosia can be food, can be drink. But in either case, in the game mechanics, nectar is sort of the lesser valuable one. Ambrosia is the really valuable one. And I thought it made total sense to make a drink that kind of fits the aesthetics of one of these graphics. I'm gonna show you how to make this. Look, it's ambrosia. It can sit on your shelf. If you want to build your relationship with your handsome death boyfriend, this is how you do it, I guess. When we talk about what ambrosia could have been or what nectar could have been, you know, you just really look at what was prized and what was consumed alcohol-wise in both ancient Roman and ancient Greek culture. A lot of similarities there. There were heavy wine cultures, but as we know, they didn't drink wine like straight up a lot. In fact, that was considered sort of uncivilized or gauche. Usually it was diluted or it was flavored somehow. Some of the overarching characteristics were spices and honey as a sweetening agent. Honey was very prized, and it was also viewed as sort of had metaphysical properties, magical properties. It was viewed as healing. So a lot of historians have stipulated that probably ambrosia or nectar would have been some sort of honey-related thing. So for all the drinks I'm going to be making today, I'm going to stick to having a wine element and a honey element. Alright, so let's get to our first drink, our ambrosia. Now, for this, I didn't want to have anything that's going to turn too quickly because I wanted to be able to make a big batch of drink to fill this bottle, let it sit there. For that, I want to have some stuff that's going to be shelf-stable in here. And while a spiced wine punch would make sense historically for ambrosia, I want to have some stronger spirits in there, have a little bit more stability. So this is what I've decided to do. I'm going to have some wine, some cousins to wine, instead of just regular wine as our base. So to make this, I've used some cognac. Makes sense, it's grape distillate. I like this one just because it's douce. It sort of works, right, with like douce. Anyway, any cognac brandy would do. And then I'm also using some sherry. This is Amontillado. So it's a little sweet, but it's a little dry. It's got a nice nuttiness to it. It's also made with white wine. And then as a sweetening element, obviously I want to have honey involved. I just made a little honey syrup, and the flavor profile for this was inspired by something called Candidium paradoxum. So this was like a Roman recipe for a spiced wine that was based in white wine. The flavor profile was saffron, mastic. I'm using fennel instead. We've got some peppercorns in there, and laurel or bay leaf. So I just put all of those things together in a pot with some standard honey syrup, let it infuse for a while, and then this is our little Candidium paradoxum honey syrup. Now, I'm going to make you a single glass worth, so if you want to make it just a one-off, that's fine. I'm going to start with just a little bitters, some Angostura bitters. And yes, I'm building this in my glass. 1.5 ounces of sherry. 1.5 ounces of cognac. And I'm just going to do 1/2 ounce of the honey syrup. And then for ice, this is not necessary for the taste of the drink, but I've got these little diamond molds, these big diamonds. Of course, diamonds being a thing that sort of is a reward you get that you can get other advancements in the game with. I've got these little diamond ice molds, so I'm going to put one of those down in there. Alright, I'm going to give it a little stir with my little scully spoon. Look at Skilly! It's thematically appropriate! Alright. And then as a little garnish, I'm just going to squeeze a little orange twist over it. Alright. I don't know how people with long nails do anything, because just having one hand devoted to a claw, you can tell that I'm very much never been a femme in my life. I've never had nails. I'm just like, well, this is useless to me now. It's just for looks, this hand. This one's for celebrating rent. Alright, so there we go. There's our ambrosia, inspired by our Candidium paradoxum. I'm pretty easy to please, but you give me enough bottles of that, and I'll be your awkward boyfriend. It's nice and earthy. The honey is pairing really well with the nuttiness and the sherry. The cognac is just kind of a natural complement to all those flavors. If you're a fan of old fashions, stirred and strong but a little sweet, this is definitely a good drink for you. Yeah. Just comparing for science reasons. Alright, what's next? What's next? Our second drink is going to be an homage to our protagonist, Zagreus. One of my favorite elements of his character design, which is sort of where the inspiration for this drink came from, is his little Cheeto feet. He's got his feet are like flaming, so it's like a gradient. It's great. It's great design. It's also fun to watch other cosplayers do it. But I wanted to make a drink. I wanted something, obviously, we're in hell. I wanted something spicy. I wanted something red, something with pomegranate, and I wanted to have this gradient in it. So that was the starting space. And we're going to call this one our Hellzone himbo. Sweet, sweet boy. Alright, so for a Hellzone himbo, what are you gonna do? Well, I automatically thought of a New York Sour, which is a cocktail. It's basically classic whiskey sour, but there's a float of red wine on top of it, so you get this nice yellow to red gradient. Then from there, I knew I wanted spice, I knew I wanted some heat. It made sense to go in like a tequila mezcal direction. I want some smoke. That makes sense too, right? We're doing, it's hell. Hell is smoky. Yeah. Alright, we're gonna build this in a shaker. We're gonna start with 3/4 ounce of lime juice. Half an ounce of, I've got some Grand Marnier. Hey, this kind of fits the theme too because it's a cognac-based orange liqueur. Just half an ounce. And now for my honey element, I'm going to use some of this habanero-infused honey. This is hot stuff. I literally made this syrup 2 days ago, and I took my contacts out hours after I finished it. And just me touching my contacts after being in the kitchen with habaneros cooking over heat, it was a fun day to get into cosplay contacts. I'm just gonna say that. My eyeballs were still apparently coated in chili ambient oils. Yeah, be careful with this stuff. Hot stuff is hot. It's not my fault if you burn your eyeballs. Okay, disclaimer, done. So I've got some habanero syrup here. We're gonna use just a half an ounce of this. I like habaneros. I chose habaneros over something like jalapenos, which are a little bit more manageable because their heat is a lot lower. I mean, by comparison on the Scoville scale, jalapenos are like in the thousands. Habaneros are like in the hundreds of thousands. So this is a much hotter pepper that I chose, but habaneros also have a really nice fruitiness that's going to play into this cocktail really nicely. You know, hot peppers aren't just hot. They have other things to offer. You just have to kind of use the right amount of them to get the other stuff to infuse. So that's why I used 1 pepper for a cup of syrup, so I could let it sit long enough to get some of those fruity elements from the habanero as well. Now, I want a little bit of smoke in this, so I'm going to use just a half an ounce of Lefroy. This is a very smoky, peaty scotch. Just a little half an ounce. And that's going to marry really well with my base spirit. I'm going to go with mezcal for this. I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of mezcal. If you're not familiar with mezcal, it's an agave-based spirit, similar to tequila. The big difference is you smoke the piñas, or when you cut down an agave plant, it kind of looks like a pineapple. It's called a piña, the center of it, and you smoke that underground before you ferment it. So mezcal inherently has this earthy, smoky flavor. If you don't have access to mezcal, that's fine. You can use tequila, but I do recommend mezcal. All right, 1.5 ounces. Before I ice up my tin, I'm gonna prep my glass. I'm just gonna do a little rim of some black salt. I like this because it's got, like, black salt has a nice sulfuric quality to it, a little bit of a funkiness to it. You can use regular salt, smoked salt. So there's our glass ready to go. I'm gonna ice up my tin, ice up my glass, and shake it up. Grab an ice cube. It's hard, it's not easy. Alright, shake. Do this with this. Alright, got a nice yellow color here, and now I'm going to top it with, instead of just red wine, I actually have a port and pomegranate syrup that I'm going to drip over the top of this. Now, layering alcohol is all about viscosity. I think this is actually going to sit in the bottom. I think this is going to go along the sides and sit in the bottom, which is fine. As long as we get that gradation, it's fine. We just want that gradient. I'm going to pour this down the side of the drink with the back of a spoon. Just like, you don't want too much because this is pretty sweet. This is just port that I boiled down with fresh pomegranate juice. Let it reduce by about half. I'm going to put about 1/2 ounce in there. Yeah. So as you can see, that went to the bottom of our drink. So we have this nice sort of sunset. And then I'm going to garnish it with just... I've got a little wedge of pomegranate there. And so we've got the sort of like the red river, the sticks, the river of blood there. I'm going to add a little, not necessary for the flavor, but I've got these skeletal swizzle sticks that I found online. I'm going to add one there. So there we go. There's our our Hellzone himbo. I like the hand in the drink because as you drink it, it gently caresses you as if to say, it's okay. It's all fine. But that's nice. When you drink it from the top, because that pomegranate syrup sits on the bottom, it's a little hotter, a little bit more vegetal. And then when you give it a little stir with your little hand here, it's a little fruitier, it's a little sweeter, but it's nice actually. It cuts the heat. Like I said, that's a good amount of heat, that habanero. It's strong, but with the pomegranate in there, it helps you cut it. I really like that. Give me a hand. Thank you. All right, so for our third and final drink for this, I wanted to make something that sort of paid homage to the other chthonic gods, Thanatos, Hypnos, Nyx, kind of play with that color palette. I knew I wanted to do something purple and sparkly and a little bit like more floral and medicinal in the flavors. The first drink that came to mind was the Death in the Afternoon, which is just a simple combination of absinthe and Prosecco. I wanted to reference that. And then the other kind of comes from the name of the drink itself. I'm going to call this drink the Gin and Chthonic. So I wanted to have some gin, some tonic, but sort of dress it up a little bit. The name was there, I have to use it. So for this one, I'm going to be shaken. Now, as I mentioned, I want this drink to be purple. I'm going to do that very simply with just some butterfly pea blossom powder. You know, I knew I wanted a gin in this drink, and I thought about using Empress Gin, which it's fine. It's a good gin. It's made with butterfly pea blossom, so it has that purple quality. But I wanted a very specific gin for this, and so I decided to you can just make the spirit you want, the color you want. This is a very concentrated butterfly pea blossom. It's like just nothing but petals. It's a very intense color. So if you know anything about butterfly pea blossom, you know that it shifts in the presence of acid from purple to pink. I don't want a pink drink, I want a purple drink, but this stuff is so concentrated that I'd have to use a lot of acid to get that color shift, which I'm not going to use that much of it. So a little like teaspoon of this in my drink is going to get me a deep purple color. It's still going to have, it's all natural. It's going to give me a nice floral element. It's going to have a little bit of that vanilla and flower flavor that I get from pea blossom. I'm just going to have to use a little pinch of it. And now to continue with that floral element, I'm going to do a 1/4 ounce of Saint Germain. It's of course elderflower liqueur. And for my absinthe, I'm going to use a 1/4 ounce of just some Bruno. And for my base spirit, I'm going to use Bar Hill Gin, which is a gin distilled from honey. Oh man, it smells amazing. It's earthy, it's floral, it's got a little extra sweetness. It almost plays like an Old Tom gin and how much residual sweetness you get from this. But I love it. It's a fantastic gin to mix with. I'm going to use an ounce of this. And of course we need some citrus. I'm going to do a 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. Ice it up and shake it up. That's a lovely color. Alright. So I'm going to strain this into a coupe. It's a little shallow, obviously, because I'm going to top this. But I do... Now, this is, once again, just for looks, but I could not use this in my little death-themed drink here. I've got this skeleton ice mold. He's just going to peer at us from our drink there. So to make this, it's like a black skull. I used some black luster dust just in ice. It's going to change over time. Over time, this drink's going to get darker and more glittery. That's pretty spooky, pretty deathy, also kind of gay. That fits the theme, right? Yeah. All right. So to top this, I'm going to use a mix. I'm going to use some cava, some sparkling wine, and I'm going to use some tonic. I wanted to use that because tonic's going to give us a nice bitter taste. We don't have a lot of bitters in here. You know, usually there's some bitters in there, but a little bit of tonic's going to give us that. I'm happy to use the elderflower fever tree tonic. It's going to marry with the elderflower liqueur. You don't have to use that. You could use regular tonic water. That's fine. I'm just going to use a little, like about an ounce of that. And then, I'm gonna finish it off with a little bit of sparkling wine. A lemon twist. Some just dried lavender there. Give us a little bit more florals on the nose. Just gonna put those right on top. Go. It's our gin and tonic. Oh, that's nice. It's very floral. It's very refreshing. The absinthe definitely comes through, but it's not overpowering. And I love that Bar Hill gin. It's so earthy and rich and warm. All right, well, there you go. There are your 3 Hades-themed cocktails from me to you. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. If you haven't checked out Hades, you should. It's fun. It's fun. It's a great game. It's such a good game. I want to go play it now. The hardest part of making this video was that I just wanted to play Hades the whole time, and instead I had to sit around here like a goof. I get to wear this now. Alright. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been Taylor Smurl. This has been Cosplay and Cocktails. Alright, I gotta go because my idiot boyfriend is probably dying somewhere.